So with all the recent news about Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out, I decided to delve back into Assassin's Creed Mirage, as I wanted to see if the series is heading in the right direction, as let's be honest, Assassin's Creed has been going downhill for years at this point. And don't get me wrong, Assassin's Creed Origins was actually pretty fun, and was actually a really refreshing experience. Then it was followed up by Odyssey, which was actually really good, and I think Odyssey is really underrated. And then we got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is possibly, it's definitely up there with one of the worst games I've ever played in my entire life. It was incredibly bloated, boring, and the story and the characters were uninteresting. And not to mention, in the past three that have been more RPG focused, you're not even an assassin. Origins kept it kind of similar, where you're still, performing assassinations and using stealth. Odyssey got rid of it further, but stealth was still a good option. But Valhalla just threw it all out the window. You're literally showing up to villages, blowing your war horn with your clansmen, and just charging the village. It's literally the complete opposite to what fans of the series have loved for years. So when Mirage was announced, there was some excitement as we were hearing all these good things, like it being a return to form with a more stealth and assassination focus. And all the trailers before release were showing all the right things. Parkour around the city, leaps of faith, hidden blades, actually being an assassin in an Assassin's Creed game, infiltrating big strongholds and buildings to take out a target. It was actually pretty exciting, and it did get my hopes up. So then the game did come out, and I played it for about 5 hours and then stopped because I got really bored. And I don't really know what it was, because the gameplay was okay, I was enjoying it, but I think everything around it was pretty boring. The characters were unlikable, and I just couldn't get behind the story either. So I did give up on it until now. With all the recent news and attention on the Assassin's Creed series, I was interested to get back into Mirage, give it a fair shot, play it fully through, and then see if it is heading in the right direction. Because I'll be honest, and as foolish as it is, the things I have been seeing about Shadows have been getting me quite excited. Some of the things coming out about the game's combat and the stealth systems seem like a much better improvement over the recent titles. However, this is Ubisoft, so I am keeping my optimism at a low until we see at least gameplay. And just one more thing on Shadows before we actually talk about Mirage. How crazy is it that there's already pre-orders out for a game that has had no gameplay shown, and even the collector's edition is available to purchase already? That is scummy, and it's absolutely wild how they're getting away with it. And also the crazy pricing for it all. Ultimate Edition being £115, and you get a quest, a season pass in a single player game. What does that even mean? And 3 days early access, which means you just get to play it on time, and people who buy the normal edition just get to play it later. It is crazy. It's actually absurd. But that's a tangent for another day, so let's get into Assassin's Creed Mirage. So, as I said, Assassin's Creed Mirage was more anticipated as it was a proper return to form for the Assassin's Creed franchise. You play as a young Basim, that bad guy from Valhalla, who is a street thief in Baghdad. You end up stealing this magic disc thing from the Caliphate, more on that later. You are eventually caught until you are saved by Roshan, who is a master assassin. You then leave with her, and she ends up becoming your mentor. You are then trained up to become an assassin and are sent off to kill members of the Order, who are this game's bad guys, until you are face to face with their leader, who tells you are something more than man, and tells you to find this temple where you will find the truth about yourself. Basim is curious, so decides to go despite Roshan's warnings. So you fight your way through to the temple and then defeat Roshan when she tries to stop you. And then you make your way through this temple, which is very reminiscent of pretty much all the other Assassin's Creed games, until you come upon this contraption where inside you find Nihal. But you find out that Nihal was never real and was actually a part of yourself that has been locked away. So you then remember what had happened to you, and your goal is now to take out all the people who did you wrong, thus making Basim the bad guy and setting him up for Valhalla. So to my understanding, and from what we learned from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Basim is the reincarnation of Loki. So he is one of the Isu, which is like the gods before time that inspired human mythology in Assassin's Creed lore. And Basim is a part of the Aesir branch, which is pretty much a knockoff of Norse mythology. They are threatened by a world-ending extinction thing like Ragnarok. So they make a big supercomputer to upload their consciousness into to kind of skip over the big world-ending event to be born anew afterwards. But in the temple, Basim sees a hologram of himself being tortured. It turns out that the torturer is none other than Odin, who in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is Eivor. Which of course takes us to the ending of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where Basim is there to kill Eivor, but fails and is imprisoned until the modern day, where he is awakened and seemingly will take the mantle of the new in-world protagonist. So I guess the story was okay. It wasn't really bad or anything, but I don't really like Basim as the protagonist. I didn't like him in Valhalla, and I don't like him anymore in Mirage either. So I guess we'll see where the story goes with him. But now to get onto the main part about Mirage, which is the combat and especially the stealth. The game has a good balance between the stealth and the actual open combat. The older Assassin's Creed titles, you had no chance if you had to actually engage with enemies. They would destroy you. The actual combat was really like a last resort thing if you had to, but most of the time you'd be better off running away and re-engaging later on after they've lost sight of you. But in Mirage, there's a good balance between the old games and the newer RPG-focused ones. Actual combat is very effective and often encouraged, with lots of times you can join up with other rebels or sell swords and fight multiple enemies at a time. And it's made very easy with the parry. The enemies have a really big timing window for it, and you pretty much one-shot every single enemy after you get a successful parry. The RPG systems also return for things like your weapon and armor. You can choose different weapons and upgrade them with their own different bonuses. For example, the dagger I used for the game gave 50% more damage after a successful parry, and some outfits gave better bonuses to things like stealth and so on. So I did enjoy that, although stealth was always the priority and is a more fun way of actually playing the game. You had that combat to actually fall back on. You didn't always have to just run away and re-engage later. But the actual stealth does work like the previous titles, where you have to infiltrate a certain area, or you have the bigger main missions where you have an actual target to assassinate. And I thought it worked most similar to Assassin's Creed Unity, with multiple ways to infiltrate a base or a camp. You can hire rebels to get in, you can try and find keys off guards to try and find back ways in. And a good returning feature from the most recent titles was the eagle vision, when you command an actual eagle in the sky who can scout out enemies and hidden entrances. And there's also the return of tools such as smoke bombs, poison darts, which really help. The free running is most similar to the Ezio games, however it's not entirely a positive. The free running has evolved significantly since then, so having such a return to the basics, instead of capitalising on things you see from even like Assassin's Creed Revelations, but most notably Assassin's Creed Unity, was a real shame. And it gets to the main thing with Assassin's Creed Mirage, is that it's kind of just there to be similar to the old Assassin's Creed games. It's almost just a nostalgia game. It's a lot smaller than the others. We always knew it was meant to be a smaller project, but it really just feels like they know what the fans used to love and just added that into the game, made no innovations of their own, or didn't even care to, just to please their actual fan base. And as I said, I think they got a good balance between the new RPG style games and the classics. Mirage is a better return to form, the stealth is serviceable, meanwhile the combat is viable, especially the Order like investigation tab where you can find clues and unveil Order members to assassinate them. As well as not having objective markers, you can use the clues you've found for the game and try and uncover where different Order members are and use your eagle to help find those locations. I think the only genuine new innovation they did was the new take on the chain assassination, where you use it's like an animus glitch to pretty much teleport and assassinate up to 4 enemies. And of course there's the little things like the skill tree is very simplified this time, unlike Valhalla, and has some pretty useful things on there. And the game visually looks very good. It's very bright and colourful, and the graphics are really nice. But that is kind of it for Mirage. It's not a standout in the series. It doesn't compare to the greats of old. And I mean, for what it is, it's passable. It's enjoyable, but it's nothing to really get your hopes up for the future of Assassin's Creed. Mirage more than anything helped me reminisce on the good old days of Assassin's Creed, and unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think Assassin's Creed Shadows will steer more in this direction. I believe it will be more RPG focused. However, I do think they'll try and bring the stealth back to try and appeal to both sides of the fan base, and I think we're already seeing it through the protagonists. One's a samurai who is better at combat, while the other is an assassin who strikes from the shadows, so I definitely think they're playing both sides to try and capture a larger audience, but only time will tell. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it so much. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you in the next one.